Good evening. Welcome to the November 22nd, 2021 Troy City Council meeting. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear God, we thank you for this day and thank you for the many blessings you've given each and every one of us. We ask that you continue to bless us tonight in Troy as we work through the issues in city government here in this Troy City Council meeting. We ask that you be with the residents of Troy throughout our city, looking over them, guiding them, helping them where they need it. Please be with those residents who really need your help but may not be able to ask or don't know that they need it. Please also be with us this week as we celebrate Thanksgiving, whether we're with family or without, friends. Please keep us all safe and healthy and in a joyous place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The November 22nd, 2021 Troy City Council meeting is now called to order. I'll ask for the roll call from City Clerk Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
All present this evening. First up are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have two of them this evening. C1 is a proclamation for Small Business Saturday to Saturday, and there's no one to present it to, but I'm going to read it into the record from up here this evening. It's a proclamation for Small Business Saturday to Saturday, November 27th to December 4th, 2021. Whereas the City of Troy celebrates our local businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 31.7 million small businesses in the United States, representing more than 99.7% of all firms with paid employees in the United States, responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 88% of U.S. consumers feel a personal commitment to support small businesses in the wake of the pandemic. And 92% of small business owners have pivoted the way they do business to stay open during the pandemic. And whereas 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independently owned businesses support their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact, and 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community by supplying jobs and generating tax revenue. And whereas 56% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business on Small Business Saturday in 2020, and more than 50% of consumers who reported shopping small endorsed a local business on social media or shopped at a local business because of a social media recommendation. And whereas the City of Troy and the Troy Chamber of Commerce support our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, preserve our neighborhoods, and are critical to the overall health of the United States. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. And whereas Oakland County is advocating that we champion Small Business Saturday to Saturday, sponsoring local business participation within our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Troy City Council hereby proclaims Saturday, November 27th to Saturday, December 4th, 2021 as Small Business Saturday to Saturday in Troy, Michigan. And be it further resolved that the City of Troy and the Troy Chamber of Commerce urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday to Saturday and throughout the year. This proclamation is presented this 22nd day of November 2021. It's signed by myself as mayor, all members of City Council as well. Shop small, shop local. Shop in Troy, stay in Troy. Next up is C2, the Troy Community Foundation presentation to the City of Troy. And we have with us today Karen Greenwood and Olivia McLaughlin. Welcome.
Good. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Allow me a brief introduction. I had the opportunity to meet a couple of you on my first weeks on the job. My name is Olivia McLaughlin. I'm the new executive director of the Troy Community Foundation. So I grew up in Troy. I'm a longtime resident and homeowner, and I have two kids in the Troy School District. So like you, I hope to represent the city of Troy obviously through this great organization. So with me today is our board chair, Karen Greenwood. We also have our vice chair, Jeanette Smith-Cotilla. Our treasurer is Kumar Giri. And our secretary is here, John Boguth. So thank you for having us here. So in addition to that, we have our advisory board chaired by Valina Allison and our Troy Family Days Committee, which I know many of you are aware of, and led by Al Lindsay and Pete Sherman. And then our other organizations in partnership with the foundation and of course our endowment. So again, I'm new to the organization, but in this part-time capacity, I'm going to be assisting with operations and all communications, serving as a primary contact to our endowment partners, which of course are at the very center of our organization. So just a quick shout out, the Sharp article, which is our Senior Home Assistance Repair Program, appeared on the front page of the Troy Times today. So we're very proud of being able to promote our endowment partners and, and grow those investments in our community. Sorry, I should have had that up there prior. Okay, so our endowments, so our largest endowments are our three Troy institutions. We have the Troy Public Library, the Troy Historic Village, and the Troy Nature Society. And just as a pool, we've doubled the size of our endowments in the last 36 months. And even there, we reported $680,000 in endowments when actually this has grown to closer to $715,000. So if you plug that into one of these projection calculators, we're looking at over $315,000 potentially in distributions over the next 10 years. So this is just incredible, the way that we can continue to invest in the community and then have these organizations, businesses, and families give back. So our policy is an optional 5% annual distribution rate. So again, that's how we end up on those projections. And even just this past week, the Troy Public Library and the Troy Nature Society requested their annual disbursements. So we'll be happy to cut those checks, about $11,000, and continue to do so with our other partners that may want to receive those funds. So plenty of opportunity. Anyone can start an endowment in Troy, an initial deposit of $10,000, and we do have families, businesses, and organizations. So anyone you know, send them our way, and we'd be happy to give more information. So I'm going to have our board chair, Karen Greenwood, talk about our successes for Troy Family Days this year, just in September.
Awesome. Mayor and Council, thank you very much for having us here today. I do have some notes. Oh, good. If you could click for me, that would be awesome. So let's start with 2020. As you all know, we had to cancel Troy Family Days. That's probably the second time in over 50 years that had happened. And as we started looking at 2021, COVID was really still in our midst. The Delta variant was coming out. It's kind of like we feel again today. I mean, with the numbers spiking again, it's a very complicated time to hold a festival. So as we were planning our 2021 spring, we had just realized the loss of about $15,000 of trailer equipment and also a lot of our signs, which cost money. They were lost in the garage fire at the Zion Church. And we were watching the schedules, right? We were watching who was canceling the Canton Liberty Festival. They had canceled their early summer festival, and Grand Rapids had also canceled an early fall festival already. So we were spending a lot of time looking at what other people were doing. Our venues, our local venues were still closed. The library was still closed at the time, and there was a lot of uncertainty in the market. So as we got into spring, it was 1 month we were holding family days. The next month we weren't holding family days. We were taking a lot of advice from Oakland County CDC. We were watching Troy. We were watching whether buildings were opening up, whether they weren't. And we were also getting a lot of advice from the Michigan Festival and Event Association. I'm trying not to acronym that for everybody so everybody knows what I'm talking about. We actually had them speak at our meetings every single month to give us an update. Are events happening? Are people showing up? Are they inside events? Are they outside events? What precautions should be taken? So we decided that our goal was to have a successful event. So what did that look like? And so for 2021, we decided to scale back the event, make it less hands-on, make it less full touch, tents with sides completely open, and just to our success was going to be measured on whether people showed up or not. So we started writing the checks, because once you start writing the checks, you're invested or you're going to lose a bunch of money. So we didn't write checks for what we couldn't afford to lose, but our goal was to keep the special day intact and the international day intact, and those are a little bit more in front of everybody. We wanted to keep our family, our kids, and our performers safe. It was our #1 goal. So we had a really successful event. We had 4 days of fantastic weather, no rain. And if you go back to 19, we had 3 days of rain. So even our 19 numbers we couldn't use as a comparison. We had pent-up demand for outside activities. The Carnival Company had called us a couple times and said, just so you know, we're getting overwhelming responses on outdoor activities, to the point where they said we're bringing 2 extra pieces of equipment. So we had 2 more pieces of equipment than we had in the past. We have an outstanding volunteer base. We had over 300 volunteers, everything from students to our social networks, our community partners. Everybody was there, and quite frankly, we needed it to run an event like that. We did do a price structure change this year. We charged $5 for everybody over the age of 12, where previously you paid for everybody over the age of 6. So I don't know if that impacted too much. I think parents were happy not to pay for less than 6-year-old, but they should be coming in for free anyways. We estimate that approximately 25,000 adults and children came through the event. That's a new number for us. Now, having said that, probably not a benchmark that we're going to use for 2022 planning, because 2022 is probably not going to look like 21 did. So for our benchmark planning, we're actually taking 19 and 18 and 17 and using averages from those. So a couple exciting things. Our ride revenue is up 37%. That is where we make a lot of money. We make money at the door, but we make ride revenue money. So, and it was up all around the state. So spike in revenue and ticket sales, to the point where the revenue, we don't set the prices, the Carnival Company does. And the Carnival Company came to us and said, we're having so much activity that we could actually raise the price. Do you want to? And we were like, no, leave the price the way it is. So we wanted to make sure that we were giving the best deal we could. Booth sales, we had a lot of booths this year. We could sell more space. We have a lot more space. So booth sales were up for us. Food vendors were down for us. It's very logical. Restaurants can't even be open full staff right now. They could not clear a food truck or staff to go run a food booth for 4 days. Now, having said that, we also had to be a little bit more flexible than in the past. In the past, we required food companies to come in and serve from start to finish for 4 days. During this event, we had food companies that could only commit to 1 day, and that was all we could get. So we said, okay, we have to be a little bit flexible. We changed our structure, our pricing structure, and we actually let people leave at night and a new person come in the next morning. We just didn't want to have an event that didn't have enough food. So we have more space for food for next year. Definitely get those up. And then our corporate sponsors were down. 2 reasons for that. The biggest is people didn't want their name tied to an event that might get canceled, or a super spreader. I mean, I heard that from more than one person. And also, a lot of our local companies are still recovering themselves economically from COVID. So the sponsorship wasn't there that we really wanted. Come back next year, they'll sponsor. So I just think that that's just another ask for us to do next year. Our expenses, almost every single contract we signed was about 10% more than it was the previous year. So whether that was fencing or bathrooms or security, all of that cost more money this year. Tryon, I just want to give a shout out for them. They are our premier sponsor. They are fantastic. They were on site. A couple staff came and worked with us in the ticket booth, so really we appreciate their help, and I wanted everyone to know that they're our premier sponsor, and I think they're going to do it again next year. No pressure. We also couldn't do this event without our great sponsors, Troy Police, Troy Fire, the Rotary Club, Kiwanis, the Lions, the Troy Library, Global Troy. The work that the Global Troy Committee does for us is outstanding. They spend a lot of time, sometimes in 15-minute intervals, getting kids up on the stage to do dances or to read for us, and it was absolutely fabulous. We had so much that some of it rolled over into Sunday this year. So we can't thank Global Troy enough. And also our partnership with the city, not only do we get to use the land, but we also use some resources, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So what do we do? What do we do next? What's our plan? So we have some distribution goals. We have already just sent out $3,000 in organizational grants to Troy Police and Fire Benevolent Fund. We also wrote a check to Kiwanis for $1,000 and Troy Rotary for $1,000. We have allocated $15,000 to our community grants program. That grant committee met today. They had 14 grants to look through. So it was a pretty long meeting. I saw the list of recommendations they're making to the board. Our plan is to meet in the 1st of December and start getting those checks out before the end of the year as well. We're also allocating $25,000 to a big project that we don't have all the details yet on that, so that's kind of earmarked money. We're working with the City of Troy for 3 bike repair stations on the Troy trails, which I'm excited to see. We're moving $53,000 to our operations account, and this includes something super fun and first time that we're going to do. We're going to pull a lot of our community charitable groups together, and we're going to have an evening event in the spring where we can all work together and learn about each other and really gain some speed for not only our endowments that we support, but also growing our endowments. And we're putting $10,000 in our reserve fund for the Troy Family Days. We're going to keep this moving with the family days right now. That it's our goal to host an event next year. So, what does that look like? We are prepared for everything. We are prepared if we don't have an event and COVID spikes again and we have to close it. We are prepared to have a scaled back budget like we had this past year. But we're also prepared to look into the future and do something really awesome. Our committee starts meeting in March. We meet monthly. Al is retiring, if everybody doesn't know that, and Pete is taking over. Pete's been shadowing Al for the last couple years, so I think it's going to be wonderful. He's already created spreadsheets and constant contact databases, so we're excited about that. As the committee starts to meet, I'm gathering everybody's ideas and throwing them in a pot and let the committee start vetting them. So we're talking about things like a 5K through the Troy trails, bringing back the Rotary pancake breakfast, doing an exercise class on Saturday or Sunday morning. These are things that we couldn't do before because they're high contact, high touch, people close to each other. An art exhibit from Troy School District. We work with the robotics program now. What other programs can we work with the schools and get them out? Possibly bringing back the petting zoo or something like that. The petting zoo costs about $5,000. It was actually one of the first things to be cut from the budget. I had a lot of people ask for it, especially for the little kids. So, there's some conversation, maybe we do something more farm themed with some history where the Historic Museum can help us with more of an education-based program. A beer tent, that conversation comes and goes every single year. Bigger endowment presents, maybe a cutest baby contest. We're taking all the ideas, we're throwing them all in a pot, and we're going to let the committee start to vet these ideas when they get together. Our goal is to have a successful 2022, and quite frankly, we could not do it without the partnership of the city, not only to use the land, but also the staff resources and the promotion of this event. So I'm here to say thank you, and we appreciate this partnership, and we look forward to next year, and hopefully more COVID-free time. So I'll take any questions if anyone has them. If not, that's what I came to tell you.
Thanks, Karen. Olivia. Questions from council? You were pretty thorough. Councilmember Chamberlain-Craingo.
I just wanted to make a comment and question. I shared this with you in advance. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Olivia. Congratulations on the new role. Thank you, John, for being here. It's just great to see, despite the uncertainty, the successes that you made. And philanthropy is a field that I work in. So I want to share with the public how special it is to have a community foundation in our city, Troy. There's about 7,000 of these around the world and about 700 in America. And I shared with you, both of you beforehand, that I did some research on community philanthropy with some experts. And kind of what I found is where it really thrived was in places where there was this great synergy between local authorities and civil society, like these community foundations, finding the partnerships, recognizing the boundaries of what each does best, but finding synergies and partnerships. And that's where they really thrived and grew. So it's something special to have a community foundation in Troy. So thank you for your work. And I love the ideas of Troy Days. I love the idea of working with the Troy Historic Village and doing some old time kind of festival kind of themed events kind of moving with Troy Days kind of moving forward. So hats off to you and thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, where are you going? Come back. First of all, anybody else? No, I just wanted to say, just quickly, no, thank you both. It's good to have you both here, to have some new faces up here to present to us and talk about the foundation, the plans for the future and what you've done. I know you both, I know Karen, I know how hard you worked for Troy Family Days. Every time I was there, I saw you there, and you'd been there long before and long after I was there. And so I know.
They told me that was my job.
That was your job,
yeah,
right? Make sure you're there.
From start to finish. I was like, what?
She was there every minute of every day. But, and I do want to appreciate also Kurt Bovenseep and Dennis and the work that the city does to partner with you and all the resources that go into that. Because I know it's a lot of work to shut down the Civic Center and everything as well. So it is a great partnership. I look forward to future positive partnering and getting things on track and doing well for our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes certificates of recognition and special presentations this evening. We have no carryover items or public hearings, so we'll move to public comment for items on the agenda. We have 3 people signed up this evening for public comment for items on the agenda, and I believe they are all here to speak on J5. Rules of procedure explain what public comment is. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if I'm wrong about J5, let me know when you come up. But the light will turn green when we start. When it's yellow, you have 1 minute left, and at red, your 3 minutes is up. So I will call on the first person, which is Mandy Kostrowski.
Hi, I'm Mandy Kostrowski. I live on Mirage Drive in Troy, and I brought a proposal to the traffic committee regarding or asking for no parking to be on the stretch of Ellenboro between Colebrook and Trombley. The traffic is just, the road is very narrow. The traffic is very crowded. Sorry, excuse me. And it's very difficult for buses and for cars and for walkers. Many of us are walkers. It's very tight. It's a little scary walking there in the morning and the afternoons. I spoke more at the traffic committee, so I'm not going to repeat everything. But what I did notice is that wasn't in some of the paperwork that was online that I noticed for this meeting was the email from the principal of Wattles. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read that. My name is Joyce Brazington, and I'm the principal of Wattles Elementary. I share the concerns about cars being parked on Ellenboro while buses, walkers, and cars of parents picking up or dropping off students are attempting to exit and enter our parking lot. I took the picture, or she talked about pictures, and if I'm sure you could contact Officer Julian, our police officer liaison, for his insight. There was an email also from the crossing guard at Wattles. I am the crossing guard at Wattles. For quite some time now, there's been a lot of issues with traffic during school hours on Ellenboro between Trombley and Colebrook. Both in the mornings and afternoons when school is starting and letting out, there is a severe backup of traffic on Ellenboro, primarily due to vehicles being parked on the side of the road, which allows parking. The road is not wide enough to fit cars, trucks, buses, let alone children and families trying to walk on that section of street due to the lack of sidewalks when there is a vehicle or more parked along that section. It's a tight squeeze even without any vehicles being parked there. As a crossing guard, I feel that it can be unsafe at times for children trying to walk amidst all of that, especially when a vehicle is parked there. It makes it so much worse. My suggestion would be to put up a no parking sign on the side of the road that allows parking currently. Even if it was no parking sign only during school hours, that would be great and may eliminate some of the heavy congestion. And during the committee meeting, I spoke, and one of the committee members, Mr. Kilmer, had come out a couple days before the meeting and watched it. He stood in a driveway, and he was, I don't want to speak for him, but what he said at the meeting is that he was so concerned with the traffic that he wanted it to be no parking at any point, not just the 8 to 9 and the 3 to 4 that the committee had passed. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments this evening. Next up is Natalie Konwinski.
Hi, I live at the offending house where the parking is happening. It's my son's truck because he rides his bike to high school because he wants to get more exercise. So not parking 8 to 9 and 3 to 4 would be putting him at, we don't know where he could park because there's a fire hydrant on the dead end across. There's no parking on Colebrook. So that's the vehicle that's in question. There's no other vehicles there. And then I just would say I did not go to the traffic meeting. Personally, I know that all schools are mayhem at pickup and drop off. In fact, just today, I made the mistake of twice, once arriving at my school where I teach at arrival time with my students. And then today I was driving and dropping something off at Troy High at the end of the school day. Neither experience was wonderful. In fact, they were both terrible, and I had to just sit and wait for people to cross. And those places actually do have sidewalk. In a neighborhood where no sidewalks have ever been, it's a known factor. People buying houses here know that coming in. When our kids were not in school, we actually knew the school schedule because we had to adjust our family walks accordingly because we couldn't manage a double stroller and a dog with all those cars, even with things on the street or not parked. It just was something. So we've always had to teach our kids how to safely navigate their bike riding where there isn't a sidewalk, because that's the necessity in our neighborhood. And it just reminds me of a neighborhood that would have a pond or a pool nearby. There's a pool down the street. Like, those people taught their kids to swim. It was an important thing to them because it was a safety issue for them. And it just seems kind of comparable to me. It's not going to be better with or without the truck there. In fact, my neighbor who lives on Colebrook has the same problem walking on Colebrook, even on the no parking side. And she just mentioned it's a problem on Colebrook as well. And she has to go onto the grass on our street with her own daughters that she's walking to the same school, but on the perpendicular street there. So I won't read her email since I'm about out of time, but I just wanted to say it would put us in a position we don't even know where he could park because our driveway's small on the corner lot. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Konwinski. Appreciate your comments. Next up is Ken Konwinski. I bet they're related. I know. Yeah.
I sent an email to the council a while back, and I appreciate the responses that I did get from a couple of you. So I guess probably the best thing to do is I would just like to just kind of reiterate what I said in that. The issues noted is the car parked on Ellenborough makes traffic unbearable before and after school. They says, I attended the traffic board meeting as well as 3 of the other neighbors, and the petitioner read her statement, and then me, and then the remaining neighbors. It seems like a petty thing, like I said, a parking issue, but I was just recently home during drop-off time. I had to stop back home. I'm a construction guy, so I had to stop back for parts. And I was there, and funny enough, I saw this lady walking with her, I believe her husband, and a dog side by side on the streets that were so dangerous to walk in, like, not for fear in their life. It's like my wife said, we don't live where there's sidewalks. We raise 4 kids on that corner, and it's part of what we need to do as parents is teach the kids how to interact with the surroundings that they're raised in. And personally, aside from this, it doesn't bother me that traffic's backed up. Living on that corner with a 4-way stop where we see 95% of the cars never stop at those corners, having cars there to back traffic up is a fine thing to me. It's dangerous to have kids playing in the street and cars racing through. So personally, I don't see it's a big deal to have traffic backed up. The police officer at the traffic board meeting said that traffic backed up is at every single school in the district. Removing 1 car off 1 road isn't gonna change anything. And also that the city engineer at the meeting also reiterated, he said, I can't take their right away from parking on the street outside their home. People moved into the neighborhood without sidewalks. It's just one of the things that needs to be adapted to. So Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Quincy. Appreciate your comments. That concludes those that have signed up for public comment for items on the agenda this evening. Now's an opportunity for City Council or City Administration to respond or reply. Anyone on Council or City Administration like to respond this time? All right. There are no postponed items this evening, so we move on to regular business. First up is I-1 board and committee appointments. Mayoral appointments are first. I have one this evening. I'd like to nominate to the Board of Review Michelle Schoen for the unexpired term expiring January 31st, 2022.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, that we appoint Michelle Schoen to the Board of Review for an unexpired term expiring January 31st, 2022. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. We thank Michelle Schoen for volunteering for that board. That concludes mayoral appointments this evening. There are no city council appointments this evening, so we move on to I-2 board and committee nominations. I have no mayoral nominations this evening, although next meeting I intend to. I'm waiting for some clarification from City Attorney Bloom regarding the LDFA. And I will turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt for city council nominations.
Thank you, Mayor. I would nominate to the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees, Councilmember Teresa Brooks for the term expiring at the end of the City Council term.
Support. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that City Council nominates Teresa Brooks, Councilmember Teresa Brooks, to the Employee Retirement System Board of Trustees for the term expiring, I guess, concurrent with her council term. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. No further nominations this evening?
Actually,
Oh, all right. Change your mind.
yeah, it was explained to me that I need to nominate these all separately.
the
because
separate
they're boards. So
Gotcha, okay.
I will again be nominating Councilmember Teresa Brooks to the Retiree Healthcare Benefits Plan and Trust for the term expiring at the end of her council term.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt and supported by Councilmember Abraham, the council nominates Councilmember Teresa Brooks to the Retiree Healthcare Benefits Plan and Trust Board for the term expires concurrent with her existing term. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion carries. Number 3.
And number 3, I will be nominating Councilmember Teresa Brooks to the Volunteer Firefighter Incentive Plan Board for the term ending at the end of her council term.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we nominate Councilmember Teresa Brooks to the Volunteer Firefighter Incentive Plan Board for the term that expires upon the expiration of her council term. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we're good, right?
That's it.
All right, that concludes board and committee nominations for council. There's no closed session requested this evening, so we move on to I-4, amendment to City Council Rules of Procedure, and that'll be introduced by City Clerk Aileen Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the only change on the rules this time is the change that was requested at the last meeting, which would be to separate out the first portion of public comment, which would be for items on the agenda for Troy residents and businesses. Then the second portion would be for items not on the agenda with comments from Troy residents and businesses, and then adding a third section, which is for all comments from residents and businesses outside of Troy.
Thank you, City Clerk Dixon. Any questions about that? I think we talked about it a little bit last meeting. Councilmember Hoderick.
Mayor, thank you. I'd like to move I-4, Amendment to City Council Rules of Procedure as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hoderick and supported by Councilmember Chamberlain-Cranga that we approve I-4, Amendment to City Council Rules of Procedure as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? All right, vote Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Cranga.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you for taking care of that, City Clerk Dixon. Next up is I-5, a bid waiver, printing of election and voter registration materials, also introduced by City Clerk Aileen Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, tonight, this bid waiver is for the printing of all of our election materials, so that would be absentee ballot envelopes, both returning and going out, along with ballots for local elections that the local municipality is required to pay for, and any additional card stock that we need in our office for MasterCards or notices that we send to voters, voter ID cards, things like that.
Thank you. Any questions for City Clerk Dixon? Someone want to move the resolution? Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move I-5, bid waiver, printing of election and voter registration materials as printed in the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve I-5, bid waiver, printing of election and voter registration materials. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Cranga.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next up is I-6, approval of bond refunding resolution. That'll be introduced by our Chief Financial Officer, Rob Malzick. Rob, in person, good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Appreciate being here tonight. With me also is Laura Bessette from Dickinson Wright and Bobby Bazinski from Bazinski Municipal Financial Advisors. So today we're here to talk about the refunding of the 2012 Golf Course Refunding Bonds, Series 2012. So again, interest rates being what they are, we're able to refinance these bonds very similar to what we did with the DDA last year. So this is the last time I'll be coming to you for refunding because we don't have any more debt to refund. So we've been able to accomplish that. So what we do have, though, is this bond's, we're going to save about $230,000. The interest rates are going to be approximately all in at about 1.3%. That's going to be replacing debt that's currently either at 2.5 or 3%. And then we're also going to have Standard & Poor's redo our bond rating. And so hopefully they reaffirm our AAA bond rating that we just did last year. And lastly, I just wanted to say that we're not going to extend the life of these bonds. So we're going to, they're going to be all retired by fiscal 2028. So if you have any questions, we're here for your questions.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions for Rob or any of the bond experts out there? Councilmember Hamilton.
Just thank you, Rob, for all the hard work you've done on this. You saved the city $3.2 million last year, saving us another $200,000 this year. It shows the power of having a AAA bond rating. That's why Councilmember Hoderick and the mayor always harp on that, because it saves you money for nothing. We lose nothing from this, we only gain. So it's a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Any other questions? I'll move I-6, approval of the bond refunding resolution as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve I-6, approval of bond refunding resolution as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion or comments? Councilmember Hoderick.
Just simply, you know, sometimes when residents are asking about decisions we make and you start talking about a AAA bond rating and how valuable it is, their eyes can just glaze over because it becomes so complex. And, you know, I think residents need to understand that we do have a team looking at this constantly with us and advising us, and it saves us money. As taxpayers, having that AAA bond rating helps save us money, helps this community have a standing that is enviable by many, many, many communities across the state. So thank you to everyone who weighs in, helps protect. There's people that came before us. Councilwoman Abraham and I watched some folks sitting at this table fight valiantly on behalf of the AAA bond rating with counsel from folks that educated us why it was valuable. So this can seem almost administrative when we do it, and in large part it is because you're doing that work and that's how it should be, and we're setting the policy that we support you, but it's a significant it's a significant moment when we can do this and leverage that bond rating, and it's something to be grateful for at our Thanksgiving Day tables this Thursday. So.
And it is your policies that you set that allow us to administratively work on it so we can get that AAA bond rating. So without you guys, we don't have that bond rating.
And we're seeing the council manager form of government at work here, and the policies that we set on our residents' behalf. So I'm just having a moment, so thank you.
For 6 years, she's talked about the AAA bond rating at any chance she gets. So this is a moment for Councilmember Hoderick.
And Mayor, I can just say, and I'm sure you can ask Mr. Baczynski behind me, but there's very few communities that have a AAA bond rating. And when you talk about cities, it's a handful in the state of Michigan.
Well, very good. Any other comments? Oh, Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig.
Go ahead.
I think she was gesturing for you, so I saw.
I was just going to follow. I had this revelation following Councilmember Hoderick. You know, maybe a way for residents to understand the importance of the AAA bond rating, if I'm correct. So correct me if I'm wrong, CFO Melzik. It's kind of like your credit score, essentially, a credit score for a municipality, if I may say that. And you know that the higher your credit score, the better you're going to get in the sense of your interest rates and the possibilities that come with that. So it's kind of like our credit score as a city and our ability to pay back and our strengths. So that's just a way to kind of understand it. And again, thank you for all your work on this. It's great to see the savings.
Yeah, there's 7 attributes that go into it, that Standard & Poor's rates, and 30% of it is budget flexibility, and that's something that this community's given us as administrators to do, and you as you know, our guidance, you set that up with the budgets that you pass every year.
Anyone else? Just want to say it saves taxpayer dollars, so it's a good thing. I'm supporting it tonight, so, all right. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, too, for being here. Next up is I-7 Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, Oakland County Purchasing Cooperative HVAC Replacements at Community Center, 52-4 District Court and Police Department. Standard Purchasing Resolution 5, Approval to Expend Budgeted Funds, HVAC Replacements at Police Department. Bid Waiver, Building Management Systems Controls, and Budget Amendment to be all introduced by Dennis Trantham, our Facilities and Grounds Operation Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I guess it's nice to follow a savings of money with asking for additional funds. Tonight before you is 2 key things. We're asking for a budget amendment primarily in the Community Center Capital Fund. The budget amount of $875,000 to replace multiple pieces of equipment came in over budget. So we're asking for an additional $159,540, with the largest chunk of that fund being a contingency that we're hoping not to use, but we are on the roof and we are, addressing some penetrations, and sometimes we just don't know what we're going to find. The second part is the bid waiver. MCMI Facility Automation, we began a relationship with them when Community Center was built. They are the architects and system engineers for all the HVAC controls in all of our facilities. So they are the subject matter experts. They're also the Schneider Platinum Partner for our region. So they have the best pricing through Schneider, so that's our request for that.
Thank you, Dennis. Any questions? Someone want to move this long-titled resolution? Councilmember Chamberlain-Craig?
I'll move it. Thank you, Mayor. I'll move I-7, Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, Oakland County Purchasing Cooperative, HVAC replacements at Community Center, 52-4 District Court, and Police Department. Standard Purchasing Resolution 5, Approval to Expend Budgeted Funds, HVAC replacements at Police Department, bid waiver, building management systems controls, and budget amendment as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chamberlain Craig, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, that we approve I-7 Standard Purchasing Resolution 4, Oakland County Purchasing Cooperative HVAC replacements at Community Center, 52-4 District Court, and Police Department. Standard Purchasing Resolution 5, approval to expend budgeted funds, HVAC replacements at Police Department, bid waiver, building management systems controls, and budget amendment as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you to all involved in that. Next up is I-8, 2022 City Council meeting schedule, to be introduced by Robert J. Bruner, Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The meeting schedule is back in front of you tonight. The only modification that I made as a result of the request of the council members was to change the August dates.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions from council? I'll move I-8, 2022 City Council meeting schedule as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Abraham, that we approve I-8, 2022 City Council meeting schedule as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes. Motion carries. That concludes regular business this evening. We move on to the consent agenda. I'd like to poll J5 for further discussion. And Councilmember Abraham?
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda except for J5 as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Abraham, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve all items on the consent agenda except for J5, which will be discussed after this resolution. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion carries. So J5, I pulled it. I figure someone else might have as well. But, I pulled it specifically because obviously we have people here this evening to discuss it. And I find myself, although I depend heavily on the board and committee recommendations that they send to us, feeling a little bit lacking at this point. So I wanted to have a little bit of discussion about it, maybe ask some questions. I see our city engineer, Bill Hootery, is up on the screen. I guess I'm going to start with a question if I can. From what I heard just tonight from the residents, and it feels a little bit punitive if it really only affects one truck. And that gives me a little bit of pause. I don't know if that's actually the case, and that's where I'm struggling. Without further information, I don't know how to necessarily deal with that aspect of it. So I don't know, City Manager Miller, if that can be addressed somehow, or if you have any thoughts on that.
I think that we have Bill Hootery, city engineer, on, and I think Bill would be prepared to address this.
Great.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, it's a small section really on the east side of Ellenboro. There are two homes that front. There are two homes on the west side that don't have driveways out to Ellenboro. The area that was requested is the west side. The east side is already no parking due to the fire hydrant side. We did look at other options in the past, trying to get a sidewalk in, trying to widen the road. The way that it's kind of the connection of two old plats. So they're offset. So in order to try and do any physical changes on the road would require grading easements at minimum. And the request came through from Ms. Kostrowski, and she did mention that there were emails from the school principal, the Troy School Resource Officer, and the crossing guard, and I did include the full agenda from the traffic committee meeting, so those emails and attachments were included as part of your agenda packet. So that information is there. It does impact the house at the corner, Mr. and Mrs. Konwinski's house. They park there, but obviously it's open to anyone to park because it's legal parking on that side. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but yes, they are the ones that are most directly impacted.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. There was a comment, Mr. Hootery, there was a comment made tonight that suggested that traffic would be a mess there regardless of whether we went ahead with this proposal. What would your opinion be on that?
My opinion is that you are correct in that statement. Right now, primarily due to COVID, things are even much worse than normal. Majority of people, parents, are driving their kids when the weather was nice. They were walking. Few are choosing to ride the school bus. So most every school is having significant issues right now. But also most every school does have no parking in and around. Several of the traffic committee members mentioned that they have no parking areas by their homes because they live next to schools. There is a small section north of the Konwinski's house that's no parking on both sides of the area that leads into the school. And then this area is just to the south. It's, as I mentioned, it's 2 homes, essentially 2 lots wide.
Councilmember, thank you, Bill. Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga.
Thank you. So that was a question I was going to ask, just to clarify to make sure I heard that correctly, that I was going to ask, what is the precedent in these situations on these streets that are near schools? I know we have a school near our home, and just recently, also with the traffic committee, they made it no parking as well. So just, did I hear you correctly, City Engineer Hootery, that it is typical that near schools, you don't have parking?
Yeah, it's very typical, and what we experience in the winter is even more profound, because when the snow gets on the road and they start to plow, it essentially narrows the road even more. So we do see in the winter that we have more issues, and obviously there's more people driving kids to and from school. So it is very common to have no parking zones near our schools.
Additional questions or anything? Councilmember Abraham.
Mr. Hootery, just to follow up, the no parking zones near schools, is there I'll say a standard distance or standard length, or I guess what's the variation?
It varies by location. There's really no standard. It's kind of case by case, and in this instance, it's kind of the limit would be this two lot section of Ellenboro. In other areas, it goes from, it may be multiple homes to essentially we're trying to get from intersection to intersection, because it's difficult to delineate a no parking zone. We do it in some cases like in a cul-de-sac where you have no parking ends, but we do get some confusion with those types of signs. And when you've got a mass of people, if you haven't been to a school arrival or dismissal, it's very quick, 15, 20 minutes, half hour at most, and it's gone. It's kind of like a wave comes in, then a wave goes out. So it's very, very intense while it's going on, and then the rest of the day it's fine, typically.
Okay. I'm not inclined to support it at this point, so I'm not going to move the resolution, although I do recognize there's 2 different requests on there. So I don't know if the best way to handle that specifically, and maybe the rest of council is going to approve it. I understand that. So it might be best to have it on the table.
Mayor, I was going to say, as much as I am inclined to see that there is a precedent and to follow that, but at the same time, I would like to look at this unique situation and compare it to one that I know in my neighborhood and other places. Is there a way to postpone a decision so that we could, if we so wish, look into it ourselves a little bit more? By not putting it on the table?
We could take no action tonight and it'll, correct? And that would table it until...
Yes, you could take no action, or you could actually do an official motion to postpone it to a date certain.
Mayor?
Yeah, City Manager.
Just a quick clarification. I know the terminology precedent is mentioned, but you do have the authority to allow the conditions to continue or issue the no parking. You have that clear authority.
Councilmember Hoderick?
I just want to be clear. I'm not asking a lot of questions because I've heard the input. I did go check this out. I typically do go drive by and look. I don't want the residents that came to speak to think that my non-questions or no comments back reflect that I haven't researched it or taken it all into consideration. So I just wanted to respond, to the residents who came and those who emailed in. That I am comfortable voting tonight, but I understand if my colleagues are not, so.
Well, we do have a precedent on this board. If someone does feel like they need a little more time to research it, that we allow that. So I'll make a motion to, it's not continue, that's court.
Postpone.
Postpone, thank you. Postpone J5 until our next scheduled meeting, which is December 6th. Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just wondering if we could go ahead with the one uncontested, non-controversial recommendation and get that off the table. Would that make sense? Or do they have to, is it a package deal? We have to either approve all of the recommendations of the traffic committee, or can we approve part of it?
You could approve part of it, and you could distinguish it by just saying J5-4 would be.
Then I'm going to withdraw my motion, and I'll move to approve J5-5.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hoderick to approve J5-5. Request for traffic control, Finch Road and Huntsford Drive. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. And now I'll move to postpone J5-4 until our next regularly scheduled council meeting, which is currently scheduled for December 6, 2021.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we postpone J5-4, request for no parking west side of Ellenborough Avenue, Trombley Avenue to Colebrook Avenue, until our next regularly scheduled council meeting, which is currently scheduled for December 6, 2021. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson, Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you folks for being here this evening. Thank you City Engineer Hoderick for answering our questions. That concludes items on the consent agenda this evening. Next up are memorandums and future council agenda items. K1, announcement of public hearings. I have two to announce this evening. K1A for December 6, 2021 is the Community Development Block Grant CDBG 2022 funds. And K1B for December 6, 2021 is a reprogram of the Community Development Block Grant CDBG PY 2018, 2019, and 2020 funds. That'll be next meeting as well. Also, K2 memorandums for council to look at. We've got a request to repeal or amend ordinances, repeal the Chapter 68 amusements and recreations places, Chapter 71 auto wash, motor vehicle laundry, Chapter 96 billiard parlors, pool rooms, and Chapter 97 coin-operated amusement devices and arcades, and to amend Chapter 60 fees and bonds required. City Attorney Bloom, did you just want to tee anything up for that, or City Clerk Dixon?
City Clerk Dixon is the...
Just the lead on that one, my apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Council, this item that you have a memo for has to do with repealing the ordinances that we've previously asked you to suspend the licensing requirements for, because we feel that they're requirements that are not urgent and need, and I'm sorry, I didn't prepare anything for tonight, but the requirements, the license requirements for these chapters can be suspended without any detriment to the city health, safety, welfare, and the fees associated with these license requirements do impact small businesses in the city. And so by repealing these ordinances, we're relieving small businesses from having to pay these fees, sometimes which can be as high as $5,000 a year. And that can be just for arcade games. So in the memo, it describes everything that the reasons for why we're asking for these repeals for these ordinances. And we'll be talking about it at the next meeting as well.
Great, thank you. Next up is public comment for items not on the agenda. There's nobody signed up for that this evening, so there's no need for council or administration response or reply. There are no council referrals this evening. We move on to reports. Does anybody have any comments on the reports this evening? Councilmember Hamilton.
Just wanted to mention the Downtown Development Authority draft minutes. It's kind of relevant as we saved a bunch of money on refinancing a bond now, and that the Downtown Development Authority, which benefited from the refinance last year to the tune of $3.2 million, is starting their plan for marketing our downtown area better and to improve the landscaping around it too. And I was really excited to see a lot of action on this. I know they're going to be working on it next year too, so it's exciting to see the savings we got. This is what the AAA bond rating does. It's going to bring business to our downtown area more. It's such a powerful thing, and it's great to see it.
Thank you. Good comments. Any other comments on the reports this evening? All right, we move on to council comments. Any council comments this evening? Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, as we all know, COVID cases are on the rise again, unfortunately, in this state. And, as we head into the holidays season, I want everyone to enjoy themselves, but try to do it as safely as possible. So that's all I wanted to say, but have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you, Doctor. Any other council comments? Councilmember Hamilton?
Just to piggyback on that, everyone 18 plus is eligible for booster shots now. If you've already done your 2-dose round and it's been 6 months, you can book your booster shots. They're really easy to get. I got one at Rite Aid. It's really, really easy, and I recommend it. And it boosts your immune response a lot from the data I've seen.
Thank you. Councilmember Chamberlain-Crainga.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to say I appreciate and I always love that proclamation, celebrating small business. My father's a small business owner. My brother's a small business owner. I know we have some here also in council. And also just wanted to comment, J7 was around, extending the temporary signage for a lot of them are for our small businesses, as well as those temporary enclosures. So I love the way that it's not just words, but there's actions that go with that as well to support them. As we know, COVID is still raging right now. Just wanted to make a couple of comments. I had my first board meeting with the Michigan Municipal League, and something we talked about was around the Serve My City initiative that they have, which is this technical assistance to help cities, member cities like ourselves, around the use of ARPA dollars. I believe Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt has mentioned it, and Representative Krupa at different points. I know that coming out of our strategy session, I think we're good. Like we have amazing capacity in our city, and we have vision around the use of those ARPA dollars. I do recall there was that question, City Manager Miller, around whether or not those dollars go towards asking for direction from us as council towards particular a project or projects, or whether it's something that much of it can be used for the capital fund, much of it qualifies, or whether that is the direction to give. And the answer is not now to give, but in that conversation with MML and some follow-up webinars I did, there was conversation that it can be very valuable to actually use it towards a visible project that you can then, your residents can very visibly see and tangibly understand where those dollars went. So just to share that, and as others, as we have input and we talk more about that kind of going forward, I'm kind of leaning in that direction. Something else related to the advance, so just to remind residents, we had our strategy session on a Saturday, and to say, actually, I loved the opportunity to really engage staff and really hear. A lot of it was, I was in listening mode to really hear what staff had to say around the needs from City Hall to just attracting and retaining talent at this difficult time in the city. And I just wanted to follow up and say, I look forward to what will come out of that. It wasn't clear what next steps are, but I look forward to hearing more about what those will be, and, do hope that, I know some people felt not everyone was able to maybe share everything they wanted to, but hope there will be, again, it's just the start of further conversation. As Mayor Youssouan said, at any point, we can bring out the things that we want to put on the table as priorities and policy and direction. So look forward to hearing next steps that will come out of that. And then just lastly, again, happy Thanksgiving. I know I was supposed to travel and see family, and we actually have a number of COVID cases with some folks in our family. And so we'll be staying put for that reason. It's the safest thing to do right now. So just encourage folks to take care. And also want to be mindful, and I kind of heard it a bit in your prayer too, Mayor, in the invocation, is recognizing that for some people, this might be the first Thanksgiving that they are spending alone as they have lost a loved one due to COVID. And we've been hearing that the deaths from COVID in 2021 have actually been higher than in 2020. And as you shared, there may be people who don't realize they need help. But just to remember and pray, and if there's someone you can reach out to, I'm thinking of someone in my neighborhood who lost their beloved to COVID, and this is their first Thanksgiving alone, is to be there and to reach out. And so hoping we can all do that as a community.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Crankville. It's nicely put. Additional council comments? Councilmember Abraham?
Thank you, Mayor. With Thanksgiving, there is much to be thankful for despite a really difficult year in many different ways. I think a lot of people are really excited that things are open now. And as we know, Wednesday before Thanksgiving is typically the biggest bar night of the year. And I want to remind folks to be safe. Call an Uber if you've been drinking. You do not want to be on the roads if you've had a drink or two and are starting to get impaired. You do not want to make a very beautiful season that we have ahead of us, a sad one for your family, your friends, and for others who may get impacted. So please make sure you have your Uber or Lyft app ready and use it if you choose to go out on Wednesday night. Make it a season we're celebrating, not one that can impact many families for the future. So this is always my November reminder. I think we've all lost family members or friends to really preventable accidents, and it really can't be said enough.
Thank you, Councilmember Abraham. And it's a somber, but always a good message that you bring. And I guess I should say, you can, if you're in Troy, the smart in the smart zone, they've got their little smart Uber lookalike that's actually cheaper. So keep that in mind. Madonna and everybody at Smart will be happy I brought that up. But thank you, Councilmember Abraham. Additional comments? I have a couple, and some piggyback off the other ones, but you brought up strategy sessions. We did meet in that advance, and I think next steps are we're waiting for kind of a consolidation from the facilitators, and then I think that'll come to us, and City Manager Miller will keep us informed of that process. But just as a follow-up on that, I will. Here we're talking about events and COVID and everything, but we do have an outdoor event December 3rd, Friday evening, 6:30 p.m. It'll be our annual. I say Christmas tree, but not everybody does in the city, so I recognize that. Our holiday tree lighting. We will have the Troy High Drumline there to welcome in Santa. The Athens Choir will be there singing, and we'll have hot chocolate and Timbits from Tim Hortons, of course. But that'll be out in front of City Hall and Veterans Plaza, 6:30, Friday, December 3rd. Always a nice event, so please keep that in mind. Usually, past few years for me, it's been snowing or raining, so looking forward to that. But no, we'll have good weather. Hope it's a year of good weather. Of course, happy Thanksgiving to everybody up here at the table, out in the city. It is a time of joy for a lot of people. It's also a time for pain for a lot of people, and I do worry not just about the people that have lost loved ones to COVID, but for other reasons as well. It's typically a very difficult time of year for a lot of people. We tend to associate holidays with family members and loved ones, and when they're suddenly gone for whatever reason, that's very, very hard. So my heart is with everybody in the community who is suffering with those kinds of losses, recognizing that I'm married to a therapist, and so I know how hard she works this time of year with her practice. It's sad and difficult, but along the lines of what you said, Councilmember Shanlin-Kranga, sometimes just reaching out to people can make a world of difference, and it's so easy to reach out today, whether it's a text or a call or anything. I mean, it can make a big difference in somebody's life and even save a life. So please care about your community and your neighbors, and have a safe Thanksgiving, and we'll be here after Thanksgiving to continue the city business. So that's it for this evening. There's no closed session, so we'll adjourn.